And we are live. JT here, and welcome to The Huddle. The Huddle is where I sit down with successful people from the world of sport and coaching. It's to learn more about their journey to greatness. Why do I have these conversations? Because success always leaves clues. I want to take a moment to thank you, whether you are watching on YouTube or whether you're listening to the audio on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me and my special guest today. And here's my friendly reminder to you. The mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's wide open. So my challenge to you is to go all in on this conversation, to remove any distractions and get laser focused on the here and the now. And I guarantee you, you will gain a valuable nugget of wisdom that will not only help you succeed in sport, but more importantly, in the game of life. Been looking forward to my conversation with my special guest. I had an opportunity to reach out to him before this in-demand summer event season here in Canada for football. My guest in the huddle today is currently serving as the executive director with Football Saskatchewan. My guest in the huddle today is Mike Thomas. How are you today, brother?
Doing well, JT. Much appreciated for being on the show.
Yeah, definitely. And before we get kicked off, pun intended, I'm going to take a moment just to count my blessings. For me, it's a daily practice, and some days I do it better than others, but I do find the days where I'm most consistent, I'm most intentional counting my blessings. Do find those days are filled with a little bit more love, a little bit more joy, a little bit more peace. And I'm a big believer, biggest blessing you can give anyone is your time and energy. So just want to thank you again for blessing me and our community with your time and energy here today.
Hey, no, thank you very much. I've been a fan from afar, seeing the work that's been going on and recognizing the good things you're up to. So, it's my pleasure in return to be able to be on here in the show with you and the crew, and for those watching or listening at home or on the road.
Absolutely. As I was mentioning to you before we went live here, one of the first things I like to do in the huddle is to remind everyone that life is a game and games are supposed to be fun. I had a coaching colleague and a great friend that would always remind us, hey, we all have these things that make us unique and different. Our responsibility is to celebrate them. So I'm curious, what is an interesting fact about you that maybe a lot of people don't know that you'd be open to sharing with our greater community today?
You know what? It's interesting that you asked that question, JT, because it usually elicits some really kind of different answers from people and such. And it really, like you said, it gives you insight into individuals. And I guess a really unique thing for myself would be that I drive stock car. How about that? I haven't done it this season here, but my wife, her dad, so my father-in-law, he drives a stock car in a little town just outside of Yorkton in Springside. They have a car that they run in the Yorkton races.
Mhm.
And I've had the privilege of obviously being his son-in-law to come down and be in the pits and help out, and
Mhm.
then I have a chance to go out on the track and run and drive around. So sometimes when you drive in the city and on the highway, you think you're Dale Earnhardt or, I guess Lewis Hamilton or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I get my moment on the dirt track to do that. So that's a pretty neat thing. It's a whole family thing. We go out there and support, Grandpa and obviously all of his fun times and his recreational components. And then I get to kind of go along for the ride and get a little run myself.
Nice, nice. Well, I'm interested, like finding this interest and passion in stock car, right? Sounds like it was part of, family help bridge the gap. I'm curious, what is it like going into another sport? And just, because again, you're, well entrenched in the football community, but what's it like going into another sport and kind of just being an active participant?
For me, more than anything, it's more of an opportunity to kind of connect with my father-in-law and just be able to, be around the people that, are valuable to him, but then again is valuable to my wife and her family. And like you said, bridging that gap. And so, going into that sport, it's been interesting because I've been well received, because of the fact that, earned the respect from, being obviously my father-in-law, Neil's son-in-law. The people that are there, they recognize, understand who I am, and I do look a little different than maybe those that are in the pits. So of course I do stand out a bit, but it's been something that's been really neat because again, as you mentioned earlier, you can learn a lot from others, and in terms of daily recognition and just understanding and processes, you learn from what others are doing and how they're doing it, and just kind of be able to take things into perspective from your own sense and how you can maybe bring it back to your own, whether it be personal standpoint, professional standpoint, or just even maybe from a philosophical standpoint, right? So the thing there is that it's a small community, it's a small town, and just like Saskatchewan, it's very community oriented. So to be able to come into another space and to be welcome and to go in and learn, and what that can do for me in football, but more so as an individual, and how to, basically how you outlook on things, treat people, all those sorts of things has been really refreshing. And yeah, the whole participation part of things with the sport has been very great. I've been very appreciative, to say the least. That's It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and just hearing you share that, it sounds like it's again, it's been this practice of, just keeping your mind open, like as we were referencing with the parachute, and just it's interesting as leaders, again, you've been in this space a while. It's funny how we as coaches and leaders all want open-minded, coachable, athletes if we're talking from sport. And it's funny how sometimes we need to demonstrate and embody that open-mindedness, that coachability as well.
Yeah, it's been something that, for me, as you mentioned, getting a little bit older, and I say a little bit older, I'm in my mid 40s, but been coaching for probably 25 years or something.
Mhm.
And as I'm now getting older, and coaching my son and in bantam, which is 14 and 15 year olds, it's been great in the sense that as you mentioned, we're trying to get a lot out of kids, and ask them for certain things. But then from our own standpoint, me as a coach, an older coach, I really take a look and an ownership on that as well with my staff. And so, I've really tried to have a good blend. We're very fortunate. I've got a staff of, some core guys I've had with me since our boys have been 8. So dads who've all played, at various levels between high school, university, junior, professional. And we've brought along some younger cats, some fresh blood, some guys that still got a little bit extra juice in the legs, you know what I mean? And for us, it's been something of a learning component from us to them to us,
Mhm.
in that aspect. So, as you mentioned, we're ever so learning all the time. And at any time you ever think that you know it all or whatnot, or it's your way or the highway, those days are long gone. Although you can still learn from some of those individuals of what they might have done. But now, I really look at these young guys that we've brought on as coaches on the staff that I've got from a minor team, and trying to give them the knowledge, wisdom, but then also let them know, like, you're going to have this opportunity to be able to lead young kids, and be mindful of what you have the opportunity to leave your mark on the sport. And so that's been the biggest part about leadership, as you talk about, and just understanding things, is how to be empowering to others. And that's been such a huge thing for me. As I looked at our staff last night, we went out for every Wednesday. We have a Wednesday ritual for the coaches, and some of these young guys came out, mixed with some of the old dogs, and we even got guys that are older than me. We got 2 guys that are in 50s and early 60s that are coaching, and it's just been such a great blend and mix and of knowledge and wisdom, and just everything. So it's great when those things can be collaborative in a way, but then also learning, and just ways to continuously grow and develop, not only as a person, but then as a mentor, or someone to be able to empower others, and being able to start their journeys as well.
Mm. It's interesting that you talked about, some of the words, the guide, the mentoring, right? Empowering others, right? And you've had a lot of reps and sets in this space, right? You first were a high quality athlete, right? At the university level, and then you transitioned into, becoming a coach and leader professionally within the world of sport. So I'm curious, that idea of guiding, of mentoring, right? Um, what do you think was part of your journey that really inspired you to want to pursue this life working in sport, to sort of be a guide, to be a mentor, to be in these leadership roles? What was it about your journey that inspired this decision?
I would have to say, JT, honestly, is my story might be very reminiscent of a lot of others, and depending upon people's upbringing and stuff. I grew up in a neighborhood that wasn't the greatest. It wasn't hard, but there was a lot of blue collar type of individuals. Moms and dads working hard jobs, right? Not saying that jobs where you're in a desk or whatnot aren't hard, but I mean like physically laboring jobs in terms of construction workers, welders, working hard with the hands, those types of things. And or parents who are working shift work, 12, 16s, one comes off, the next one comes on, type of thing. So from where I grew up, that was the people that I was around. So for me, sport was something that I really enjoyed, but unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to really kind of have my parents around all the time. But they always encouraged and tried to ensure that you do all the right things and give it your all and make sure that you're a good person out there and don't cause any trouble is always what I always heard from my mom, for sure, and I still hear that in the back of my head all the time. And so with that, sport was an opportunity for me to be able to get to where I am today because obviously due to the athletic ability that I had, was able to transition that into having the opportunity through sport, whether it been through football, and I was actually better at soccer than I was at football. But the opportunities in football were greater in the sense of providing a chance to have an education paid for and just be able to do a little bit more. That was what kind of got me going and knowing what sport did for me. And it kept me out of the circles, which of where I was growing up were some other individuals who went in the other side of the road, which is one less traveled and not obviously as rewarding. So for me, I know what sport can do. It has done for myself, and now that I have two kids, what it's done for them, and then obviously in the role as I have been in, what it has done for many that have come through the world of football, and then see them later on in life. And the one part that I can even add to that is, I had a kid that came through our programs here at Football Saskatchewan, and then now this past year, sorry, was my son's grade 8 teacher and was a hell of a teacher. And it's just a kid that you really see what the sport did for them. So it really kind of reinforces everything that you believe in and the reasons why you're in it, right? And when you see those stories, those successes, those individuals who are able to parlay being an active participant in the sport into their professional life or their next stage of life. So, really, when you come back to it, as you're asking, is knowing what sport has done and is able to do for individuals is the reason why I do what I do, the reason why I'm in where I'm in, because especially with football and what it has done for me, I look at what it can do for others from all walks of life, boys, girls, from different ethnic backgrounds, from different communities. And whether they play at a high level or not, it's been more so what the game can do in terms of bringing people together, giving an opportunity to earn or gain the ability to have some self-worth or some self-success, and just how that helps them and the little blocks that it'll be in part of their life journey to be able to be a the person that they can become or will become. And if it lends itself that they end up being great in our sport, that's amazing. But it's been the opportunity to know that the sport was valuable enough to them that they wanted to continue on, and knowing what it can do for people, not just now, but in the future.
Mm. It's interesting as you share that, right? Because I think what you sort of highlighted there is, sport, really ultimately can transform lives, right? It's really, and I think it's hearing you share there really speaks about like you're an educator at heart, right? Like you understand that sport is simply a vehicle to teach and reinforce greater life lessons. And it's interesting that when we really sort of look at it that way, it really becomes a powerful tool because, like you said a few minutes ago, it empowers people to realize that, you know, you can essentially be the creator of your life moving forward. I know it sounds really cliche, but you can write your story moving forward.
Yeah, when you look at some of the individuals that we've had the opportunity to go through sport and at a high level, every single person has a different story. And the other part about that is that every single part of those stories is all connected through the one activity that they're in. And so, when you're able to hear the different walks of life that people have gone through and journeys and pathways and such, and understand how much the game is meant to them, or just that's at the high level, kind of speaking at that sense. But more so when you look at, when for me, when I get, whether it be an email, a message, or just a simple conversation with a parent, and they talk about how their child has never been able to be engaged in a sport, but yet they tried this sport, they loved it, they want to do more, they're more communicative at home, their social circles has expanded, they're accepted in their school some more, they're more outgoing. Like, that is just some of the components that you look at and you go, if this is what the sport can do for people, kids, individuals as a whole, I got to be a part of this. I got to want to do it. You got to want to. And that's just kind of some of the, the juice that really kind of makes you go daily on some things, because you recognize that with life and everything that's going on in the world and just in general, that if there is something that can be done from an individual standpoint to give them joy, happiness, or just even a belonging, and you're a part of that, that lets you understand your self-worth, but then also it lets you understand kind of what it is that you're a part of, that it's more than just the game, as you just mentioned, JT. The thing that I've always said, and it's a moniker here, here in the province and ran through by SAS Sport, is that sport, it's more than a game. It simply is. And it's so true to so many aspects. And when you can look at just what it's done or does for people, that truly embodies what the words mean for not just myself, but just for sport groups in general.
Mhm. So I'm curious, before we came on here, the one thing that I was sharing with you is the one thing that has always impressed me since, re-entering the sports space, especially seeing what Football Saskatchewan is doing, is just the way you operate, right? Kind of just those operational, like the daily habits, right? Like I was mentioning to you before, I was very impressed, being at the Canada Cup last year in Alberta, where, seeing the U18s coaches and athletes and support staff coming in together, leaving together. I was really impressed by seeing here you have 16, 17-year-old young men that are cleaning unprompted tables and making sure pushing in chairs. So I guess I'm curious from your perspective, this idea of sport being more than a game. How important has that been in terms of creating this culture where, we're using footballs, that's great, it's the passion, but using that as the tool to teach and reinforce some of these important life lessons, like leaving places better than before you got there.
Yeah, for us, it has always been something that we need to ensure that we can help the young men and women of today be able to understand that there needs to be a greater fulfillment in life. There needs to be an understanding of how you need to be able to do things, in whether it be in public or just as an individual, to lead a better life or to be a better individual.
Mm.
And so while sport itself allows you to do a lot of things, compete and whatnot, is the values outside of the game that really tend to lead more lessons than anything. Because the thing that we've utilized as a tool, or I guess as a culture component, is we say, at the end of the day, you're not going to remember all the scores of the games that you play, whether you win or lose. you win, yeah, you won a championship, and sometimes you may remember the score, probably not. You may not remember this, the semifinal game or whatnot, but you won, but you can't remember everything from it. There's some things from the game that you will or will not remember, just because the adrenaline rush, the euphoria, and everything going on. What you do remember is things outside the game. You remember when you are with your team and where you're at and the laughs that you had and all those things. But then you also remember, hey, that was something that was a core memory that, we learned as a team how to be able to be better individuals. Was able to prepare the food that we were able to eat, or the people that were there to clean or to do whatever, or to help us get our towels or whatnot. And that in the journey that we had and along that way, that there are many people that did things in order for them to achieve success or be able to be where they were at. Obviously their moms and dads allowed that, but just being understand that outside of what they are a part of, that there's a bigger picture, and to understand that there's a lot of things that need to go right for them to be able to do things. So it's more so, when you look at it, it's not just from a standpoint of explaining and talking and telling, but it's also from a practicing standpoint, because of course, if they don't see it be elicited, or they don't see it be done by those ahead of them, or they're being talking to them about that, then how are they ever going to know that that's ever going to be true? So for us as coaches and as an organization, we try to ensure that we hold true to that as well with everything that we do. So when they see us as leaders, as adults doing those sorts of things, they come to understand that, hey, maybe they aren't wrong. And sometimes you need to, they see it once or twice and they start believing. And then all of a sudden, when, they get pulled aside and said, hey, you guys are very respectful. We appreciate that. The staff thinks that. That then is something that they think about and remember. And so then that's kind of, when we talk about, the sport, it's more than a game. Those are parts of it. And that's something that we try to instill into our players, into our coaches, into our support staff, and just even as an organization, from our president, Mike Humany, down to our, to the VPs, to the directors of women personnel, to everyone, treasurer. We definitely understand, how the sport can help us, and all within everywhere that we come from, that when we are able to work together collectively, and try to understand everyone around us better, and be cognizant of that we can then be successful, as not only as individuals but as a group, a program, a team, in whatever event or competition that we end up being a part of.
Mm. It's a great reminder, like what you shared there is this idea of like attitude filters from the top down, right? Whether it's from ourselves and the mindset we have and how we choose to operate in this crazy world and at times, and but even like you said, if we're in leadership roles, from presidents to executive directors, coaches, support staff, right? It's this idea of it's gonna filter down, and when they see you modeling the expected behaviors or those high quality habits, very often they'll follow, they'll get behind it. So I love that. um I'm curious, the perspective, something that caught my eye last year. Again, I'm thinking back to tournament. One thing that caught my eye was, I love the football Saskatchewan like truck, right? How it was really cool to see it in Saskatchewan colors. You could see the different organizations that were there. Like it very much showed this alignment within the province, right? From the top down. I'm curious, as someone who has been part of a great culture there and has built something and has seen success on the field. What is that? I guess my curiosity goes back to, we're in a day and age where we are understanding more and more that our diversity is our strength. So how do you go about honoring the diversity of lived experiences, but at the same time sort of unifying it towards the collective good, the greater good? I'm kind of curious your perspective as someone who's been part of an organization that's built this cohesive culture.
Yeah, for us, we've always looked at the successes of our elite teams. So, those that are near the top of the pyramid. Obviously, we encompass everyone in the province football wise, outside of the riders. And even for them, they're major components of everything that we do. Obviously, you can see it in the backdrop here as they are, them and the foundation are core components of what we do here as an organization. But, the collective work between our men's teams and women's teams and the diversity that comes along with it, as you said, JT, is something that is embraced, because although competitors on the field, we all understand that in order for us to be better as our teams, whether it be in the north or the south or whatnot, we have to work together. It doesn't help one if you speak poorly about another or whatnot. Competition is competition. Again, right? Everybody wants to be able to go out there and win and whatnot. But understanding that collectively working together, collaborating between whether it be men's or women's programs, coaches, players, that is the only way that you're ever going to get better, is when you can share different, whether it be experiences, whether it be efforts, different things, tidbits. No, of course there's core things people are going to keep to themselves, or how they do things, or whatnot. But there are still ways, despite competition and despite rivalries, to be able to be successful collectively and wholeheartedly. So, the thing that really has been great is that, for our coaches that are part of our elite teams, we have them all work together. Whether it be a U16 staff or U18 staff, a men's staff, a women's staff. And, when we have our annual coaches clinic here in the province, and you've got people from 6 aside, 9 aside, 12 aside, minor, high school, university, junior, men's, women's, non-contact, contact, all coming together, but then networking, talking collectively, kind of be able to work, to understand things better, or just to I want to speak with that guy and kind of find out something, or hey, I want to understand more about your program. That people are open-minded to hearing different ideas. I definitely think that has really been embraced quite a bit here, and I would say in the last probably 8 to 10 years, where you've seen a lot of turnover, potentially from maybe some of the older, kind of coaches, and maybe from the older school that we talked about earlier at the top of the show there. That now with kind of a new, changing, fresh faces, changing the guard type of situation, that those types of things are more open, are more receptive, and so that allows people to be more conscientious of things, and just how they can help leave the game better than when they came. And that's kind of some of the same mind frames and just kind of mindsets that I look at myself, as I mentioned, in terms of trying to ensure that I can empower my younger coaches. And that's kind of the way that we see a lot of the coaches in the province here try to work to be better, try to understand things. Today's athlete is a lot different than yesterday's athlete, and how to connect to them, with the youth and the communication devices they all have, and methods and slang and all that stuff. How do you get through to them, right? How do you work in their levels? How can you get them, maybe not having to get to their level, but how can you get them to understand what you're trying to say or spit, or whichever one you want to use? And then once you're able to do that, how can you then potentially help another coach in another area, in another sphere, be able to be better? Because again, when we all collectively are able to kind of get pieces to be, working at a higher level, or to be more productive, whether it be in the northwest part of the province, southeast, northwest, or northwest, or northeast, sorry, central. When then they get together at the next level, at the next apex in the pyramid, they then make those teams better. So that's how you're able to kind of work in the diversity of the sport, with the different people, places, environments involved, and how when you work as a unit and can work and understand that how this will blend together and make that puzzle work. It has been something that is been well received by those coaches at the higher level, but then how that has helped and blessed those below them in the minor level and the ground floor of your grassroots, I guess you could say, how that's helped them grow, develop, and build those players coming up through their programs.
Mm. So it sounds like there's been this effort to sort of create these spaces. I mean, here's a perfect example, right? We're in a virtual space now. We're having a conversation, right? Again, I'm sort of picking your brain about best practices, like how do you do this? But then, it's also using the in-person stuff, like through coaching clinics, right? To really start to, I guess for better lack of term, humanize and really start to create those spaces where we can actually like ask questions, learn from each other, learn to how other people are creating successes. And really there really are no more excuses. Like the world has become increasingly more accessible.
Yeah, you definitely hit that one on the head there. From the accessibility standpoint, like I'm in Saskatchewan. Obviously, you're in Ontario, and here we are having this conversation in this space. And it's not just, like communicating before basically Zoom and Teams and those platforms that really became quite prevalent before
Mhm.
COVID. It was over the telephone. I never saw you, you never saw me. You could never see like a facial expression or could tell from a tone or, anything like that. And you get more from this.
Yeah.
You certainly do. However, it did show, once again, referencing COVID, it did show through COVID what the person to person interactions really truly meant and really how that connection piece is just something that can't be replicated, right? You could try to duplicate it like we're doing right now and speaking virtually, but it can't be replicated between the emotion, the connection that you can truly get within that person to person kind of interaction, right? So those things we've really held valuable in terms of like even doing like we talk about the coaches clinic, but even from like an NCCP standpoint, right? Yeah, you can do virtual things so people don't have to leave their comforts of their homes or their communities to do stuff. But when you are in person, you can do a little bit more. You can get a little bit better of a connection. You can see retention be a little bit better because,
Yeah.
as you said at the beginning of your show, you are tuning out some of the extras, the cell phone, the this, the that, the distractions, and you're connected one on one. You're right with the person in the moment, in the time.
Yeah.
So, that has really been something, when we look at it, has really been a beneficial component. And as I mentioned, the riders are a huge proponent of what we do business wise and how we are as an organization and just even as a community able to do what we do because they as an organization understand that community is what supports them. They're a community owned team. And so everything they do is based off of that. And that lends itself right down from, President Craig Reynolds, all the way down through Jo, who's the, president or sorry, not president. He's the director of football operations with the organization, down to Corey Mace, the head coach, down to his assistants, down to the players. And so, I'm fortunate because my office in Regina is at the stadium. I'm on three, Craig's on four. I could literally probably poke a broomstick through the roof there, hit the floor in his office to get his attention, maybe kind of go up and have a conversation, and we can do that.
Yeah.
Mace and crew, they're down on B2, so I can take the elevator down as long as they're not in practice and not too busy. But I've had that ability to be able to have a quick conversation about just anything in general if we ever needed it. And so those things are what help us in terms of a province be able to grow because they understand that it's not just things that are in the major centers. It's not just Regina and Saskatoon and or Moose Jaw or some of the other places, and that it is other towns like an Asquith or Montreal Lake or a Churchill or Oxbow or places like that are smaller because when we can help grow things in a rural Saskatchewan standpoint, and that's we talked about how we're a little different where we are, just because of our vast land and small population size in some centers, is that those small connections make a big difference and they help grow the game in all different areas, whether they have 500 people in their town and they've got a football team, or
Mhm.
they've got 275,000 as a major center, I guess I say that here in our province, and have multiple teams, right? So
Yeah.
There's a lot of different components, but there's a lot of different players in that part that do their role in making sure that we can grow the game from all different walks of life.
Mm. I love that you sort of touched on this idea of, growing the game, right? It's interesting because, although, part of your lived experiences in the tackle space, right? You've sort of shifted and become a leader in the flag space. And, I know I'm sort of preaching the choir there. It's interesting how flag, has been let's say has really been more well established in Saskatchewan, but now with that Olympic announcement in the fall, you start to see just eyes and ears, the interest, the demand growing, right? So I'm curious, what has that been like for you? Again, you have a well-established league, right? Regina Flag Football League, who was actually recognized by the NFL as being, the top league. I'm kind of curious, what has that been like for you being a leader in the flag space to see this growing demand, with the 28 Olympics sort of on the horizon?
JT, if I sat here now and told you that we thought this was going to be where we're at when we started,
Yeah.
my nose would be hitting you in Pickering or Toronto or wherever you might
Yeah.
be at right now. You know what I mean? Like when we first started, we did not know that we would be able to have what we have or be where we were at. But what we saw was a sport at the time that was coming along that was a great alternative to tackle. And for us, and not a great alternative, but an opportunity for people to participate in a space outside of the tackle realm. There was touch football as well before, and flag was really kind of when it first came on in our province. We were looking at it and saying like, there's a way to coexist with everything. And so, from building what we had at the start, especially here in Regina, it was something that we wanted to ensure that we were mindful of those other sports or groups that were established or were going at that time, and not saying we're coming in to compete or whatever. It was more so coming to put an opportunity out there for those to participate in the sport outside of the tackle space to be able to still be engaged in the game. Because I think there were some people that were wanting to join or be a part of it, but didn't know how, or weren't too sure, or maybe didn't like, it's touch football or whatnot. But each game has its space. The football is football. There's different levels, and it's no different than volleyball and how they have beach volleyball, and they have indoor volleyball, and they have this, or soccer, right, with futsal and indoor and outdoor, and in basketball you go 3-on-3 or 5-on-5 in the international game. Like there's spaces and ways for all of it to work. And so for us, when we first started, and I've explained this before, especially with the Regina program, and appreciate the shout out there for the work that we were able to be acknowledged by the NFL on. When we first started, we started the program, we had 75 kids. And the thing was, is the 75 kids were not of all the same age group. They were kids who were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we had like 6 different age groups, 7 different ages that were all coming together, 75 kids. And it's like, as like it's different body types, different, like heights, different, like it was all over the place. And so, we said, well, we didn't have enough to make teams and, divisions and this, and we still want them to play. And that's what it all comes down to, is ultimately play. So, we did it old school, and kind of old school hockey that we have out here when you were a kid, where you used to throw your sticks in the middle and have somebody blindfold and throw sticks left, right. And that's how you made a team. And that's what we did is we divided the kids up to a number that made it work. And then we told them take off a shoe, and we put his shoes in the middle, and we mixed them up, domino style, and then blindfolded and tossing shoes left, right, and had them play. And just through genuine play, the kids enjoyed themselves. Like some weeks, yeah, we had 75 kids. Some weeks we had, 62. The lowest I think we had was like 54, and then is like, 71. And so you just worked with what we had. And at the conclusion of that, the parents were happy. And we didn't know how you were happy with what we were doing, because I was like, there ain't no structure, like we don't everybody have those same jerseys and schedules and this and that. And so, but we recognized that they were happy because the kids were happy just playing the sport. They were happy because they were able to make some new friends. They were have a belonging and some things that we talked about earlier. And so, the following year, we then had 200 kids. And we're like, oh, okay. Now we have enough to actually make a team or division or whatnot. And so I reached out to some of my former teammates as I played university ball here in Regina and said, hey, I need some of you guys to come out and coach some teams for me. It's kids flag. It's easy, man. We'll play it like it's Madden, right? You got your own playbook, and we'll make our divisions. This will be like the receivers division, and this will be like the DBs, and so had friendly competitions, and because of that, we were all young at the time. At that time, I didn't even have my firstborn yet, and a lot of us didn't. So we had a little bit extra time. So there was rivalries on this stuff after, and so the guys came really, really enthused, and that then translated to the energy for the kids, and then the parents loved it, and so on and so forth, and it kept going on. And the rest has been history, as I said, because we went from 200 that year to 400 the next year. So now I'm telling my old lineman, I'm like, yo, I need some of you guys to come out here and coach now. And so, it was great. It was beautiful because, I was getting junior guys from the Thunder to come and coach. I was getting guys who were going to U of S that were home for the summer to come and coach.
Mm-hmm.
Community people were very big, and the rest just took off. And to here we are today in at least Regina. We've got 3,300 kids playing in the spring. Another 1,500 playing in the fall here, getting ready to kick off in a couple weeks, and then we'll have a winter program. So just in our city alone, it's been obviously well taken off. Obviously, the Riders are a big part of it again. And the foundation, and obviously, as you mentioned, with the LA Olympics, and just even with our success that we got acknowledged from the NFL, it really did take off, right? It was taking off before, and boy, it is really taking off now. With 5 new centers in our province, all of a sudden starting flag here just this past spring coming into the fall. So, and it's not big centers either, JT. It's places that have 400 people, and they're going to have 4 teams of kids be able to play to be able to get them started. Some other ones are bigger. We got a place in Yorkton. They're getting started. And they're doing something really neat where they have these young kids practicing at the same time as the tackle kids. And so when they do their warm up, they do the warm up together. So it's really neat because it's the high school kids that are getting ready for they're getting ready for their high school season, and then they've got these little kids in the community that are 5, 6, 7, 8 that are out there, doing the opposite arm, opposite legs, and they're doing the little bear crawls, and they're doing the karaoke, and they're doing a skip, and they're doing it together at the same time. So when you see a big kid wearing equipment, then you got this little kid doing it. It's showing what the game can be and how it can work together. So for us, really, that's been a great thing is that the football space and community has been able to be accepting of understanding that flag is there, and what it's doing and what it's coming up and how it's growing.
Mm-hmm.
And for myself and for us in the province, we've been able to help those that are looking to grow not just football in terms of tackle, but how flag can help build that in different communities in Tisdale and Melfort, Swift, and just many others that have really embraced that. And all of a sudden now you're engaging people who may have been on the fence or unsure to join
Mm-hmm.
football, now know that there's an opportunity through flag. And with the LA Olympic announcement, obviously earlier in the year, and then now with the games in Paris just concluding, and now you're really starting to see the pickup. Next week we're going to be in your neck of the woods for flag nationals, U14, 16, 18. You got teams from all over the country coming, and it's really going to take off. So, would I have known that it was going to be like this in 2007 when we started it in our province, to where we are now? Man, I if I knew then what I know now, it would have just, everybody always says that, right? But I'm just happy that we decided to take that plunge and to take the leap and to grow and to build, because here we are now in 2024, and in 4 years it's going to be an Olympic sport. It's going to be something no matter who is on the team, no matter where they are from in this country, us as Canadians are going to be super proud and are going to be watching with a lot of pride to know that there's going to be some people that are from our areas, from our space, in our sport, representing us on such a big international stage, which is the biggest stage for amateur sport, in the world.
Mm. I appreciate you sharing, and it's interesting, like hearing you share, that first experience with the 75 kids, like that old school sort of hockey, hey, blindfolds on, throw those shoes in. It's interesting because very often, I think it's just acknowledging that we live in a time where much of life is social media driven. So they see where football Sask or, Regina flag football is today, but they don't realize its humble beginnings all those times in 2007. So I'm curious, as we grow this thing, as we do our best to get more aligned, from community to provincial to the national level, based on you having lived experience in here all the way dating back to 2007, what do you think needs to happen for us to truly create the best possible experience for 2028, to truly put our, flag football as a whole just in the best position to have a great experience in LA? I'm kind of curious your perspective.
Yeah, you know what? It really is going to be something I think is beginning. Having these types of conversations are huge, obviously, just as we're doing here today,
Mhm.
because when you have a chance to have people that are of like-mindedness or understanding of a game or of a sport together in a room and talk openly and not sit there and hold anything close to the vest,
Mhm.
that's the way that you will be able to gain success overall and be able to collaboratively or even across the country work together towards building something that is greater than ourselves, that's bigger than where we come from, because I think when we look at things in general, there's a lot of pride that people take to represent their province. Obviously, what it comes with it, you represent your family, your school, your town, your team, your province. The next level of pride comes to represent your country. And so for that to occur, everybody from across the country has to be able to put aside potentially sometimes their, the biases or their own way of thinking, and that it's their way highway, or this is what we're going to do to get our player. It's like, what are we going to get to do to get the Canadian player? What are we going to get to do to work to get everyone to understand, or work collectively, or whatnot? But it does start obviously within the different locations of being able to have things established, pathways to
Mhm.
get things going, opportunities and ways for their opportunities to kind of come together, right? So it's more so being able to share collective stories of the early beginnings, as we talked about, like the old school style in 07, but then obviously helping build programs, or understanding that things can occur outside of a major center. And I think that's kind of something that we, have been able to express to other provinces that have asked for different information collections, resources, and those types of things. When we talk about, say, from a tackle standpoint, six-a-side football is played in small communities, in a tackle sense, and it's usually a roster of like 15 people.
Yeah.
15 people making up a tackle football team. You're like, what, wait, what? It's like, yep, that's how it is. And we've got other communities that are just like that work together. So it's the understanding of working together collectively as groups, as individuals, coming to understand that there's ways to be able to build, there's ways to be able to grow. And with that, when we look at, from a flag aspect, when you can be able to help grow a program in another small town and let them know, hey, let's come together and let's play, let's grow, let's develop, let's look at ways we can kind of be on the same page, or even have an opportunity to kind of be in the same room. That's going to help. And then with your neighboring province, or opportunities from a national standpoint, as we get everything kind of given to us sometimes from our national organization, is how can we look collectively to be able to build up to the apex, which is at Football Canada standpoint, to be able to have a really good team from across the country be able to be a part of things. And sometimes you don't have to look at it as a really good team singular. You can look at really good teams plural, where you could have you know, four subsets of teams to be able to build up and grow. Because when you look at, even say right now, I'll give an example from Ontario standpoint, the U18 women's standpoint. Your team, uh, really good team, really good teams that you had, red and black. You just gave 44 women an opportunity to grow and develop, as opposed to, and it's great that you have the numbers to be able to do so. Whereas in some of the other provinces, you're only to gain 22 women the opportunity to get better. So just in having an extra team, you've now been able to grow and build all those extra individuals to be better collective players for then the next team, the next whatever. So when you look at it in that sense, when you talk about it from like a flag aspect, and I said, from a plural component of having teams. So instead of at the top of the pyramid, you only have one team and this group of individuals that are getting better. Well, then you don't have the next group ready, or you don't have anybody to push or whatnot. But when you have multiple stage group kind of individuals to be able to do so, that makes the whole collective team component or opportunity or pool of players or opportunity for development or play that much greater. So, I think when we look at it, there needs to be potentially an open space, one where people look and talk and find ways to grow and develop the sport as we get ready for the next 4 years. And it's not even the next 4 years, JT. We are 3 years, and change away. So, everybody says, yeah, 4 years. It's like, no. Remember, hey, we're middle of August. The Olympics are going to be at the beginning of July. So it's not 4 years, it's 3 years less and counting. And so, the tick is going fast. Like we think it's going to be slow, it's going right. So, it's hopefully something that, whether it be something that is done through the provinces collectively working together, or just even individuals as we're doing this. And, like you reached out to myself and asked if I'd be present to do this. I'd be like, yeah, sometimes that's what it takes is someone to be able to ignite a fire, or to kind of take two pieces of wood and keep rubbing it together, and then all of a sudden it lights a spark, and then other pieces of the other wood kind of come together to create a fire. And that's really kind of maybe potentially how you can look at how this can grow and to build to where we think we can be for 2028. Because I've seen what we have at the youth side. It is damn good. We got some kids across this country that can do some amazing things. And as we look to the senior championships that are going on in Finland, I think next week or at the end of the month, those Canadian teams have some very good talent. And, unfortunately for where we are sometimes, we see the American stuff and we're always, seeing America, and we're always, oh man, those Americans. You know what? Pretty damn good at Canada too. And I think that, when we put our mind together with everything, and we put our collective efforts together, and sometimes forget the borders, forget the area codes, but understand the space and the landmass and the country that we got, that when we can work together as individuals, we are better than just being singular in our focus and our goals moving forward.
I love that. And why I love that is, just reminding us that, we're living in a world of possibility, right? Even like you mentioned, depending on when people are listening, the opportunity to connect next week in person, right? At Flag Nationals. Great opportunity to bring people together, like-minded people who want to grow our beautiful game. Though that lays the foundation, right, for more meaningful conversation. I think hearing you talk, I also thought, hey, what's a great way to connect with people over chicken wings, like you were saying. And maybe that's what's going to spur the next conversation, right?
Yeah.
Brother, I want to be mindful of your time and energy. Like we were first talking about as we kicked off in the huddle, I know you're someone who values being a guide, being a mentor for, young emerging leaders who are entering this space, right? To show them this is how we go about our business so we can provide and create the best possible experience for those that we're helping and serving. Um, if an emerging leader pulled you aside and say, "Hey, just love one, nugget of wisdom as I embark on this journey in coaching and leadership," I'm curious, what is a nugget of wisdom you would share with them?
I would say that uh, God gave you two ears and one mouth for a reason. Better to listen than to speak at times. That is the biggest thing that we look at things today. Sometimes we have our own type of values and whatnot, and which is great, and that what you want to have, and but at times you need to listen more than you speak. And that's something that I've really I think back to me as a young individual when I first came out, and hey man, I know this, I went to school, I took this and whatnot, and I think I got this and I could do that, and then all of a sudden, you know, have kids and start to understand life a little bit better, um, to recognize that I needed to listen to what was being said a little bit more than talking, and to be able to hear what people have to say a little bit more and understand it and try to process it, as opposed to speaking over someone or speaking past someone, and those types of things. So that's always the thing, that if I could ever tell someone that's looking to get into a space, when they have those conversations or they look to approach someone, that they come in and try to hear everything that is being said to them, or listen to what is being said to them, as opposed to kind of catching one thing, doing another, and then out the door type of thing. So that I would say would be the one thing, if I could really say. That there's a lot of others, but that would be the first thing that I would say to any young individual that would be looking to come up in the space and whatnot, is to listen, to what is being potentially given to you, told to you, spit to you, and then speak when you need to say something, but at times you need to listen more than talk sometimes. So yeah.
Hmm. I'm going to receive that reminder and apply it today. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, So, brother, I want to take a moment to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you for the great man you are, the great dad, the great coach, mentor, but more importantly, the amazing human being you are. I've always, as our paths have crossed, I've definitely appreciate the energy, the enthusiasm. There's a way that there's this invisible energy and enthusiasm in which you operate that has always kind of interests me. So I now see through this conversation, what that is. So I just want to acknowledge you for, again, being the type of leader who chooses to lead with energy and enthusiasm. So just want to take a moment to acknowledge you, brother.
Hey, thank you so much, JT. It's been great, to be able to be on here with you. As I mentioned, a fan from afar, seeing the work that you've done, the space you've come into with Football Ontario,
Mhm.
and Aaron bringing you on board, and what that's done and transformed things there. Don't think we ain't watching. We seeing how everything's going, and you guys are doing some great work. And I do thank you very much for extending this opportunity to myself. And once again, congratulations for all the successes that you guys have had as an organization this year. And thank you for everything. You guys were great when you all came to Regina here this summer. Appreciate everything with that, and keep doing what you're doing. These types of spaces and opportunities are what is needed, and ways to be able to build and grow the sport, and just these simple conversations and what it can elicit, to future ones with other groups or in a bigger scale, is how we're able to definitely grow and build the sport, in all aspects, whether it be as coaches, officials, supporters, staff members, or whatnot, in the country. So same right back at you, JT. Keep doing your thing, keep being you, and keep the huddle going. And looking forward to tuning into the next episodes down the road.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And I'm going to just take a moment just to receive those kind of words. So thank you. So folks, Mike dropped so many valuable nuggets of wisdom that will not only help you succeed in sport, but more importantly, in the game of life. But as I like to remind you every week in the huddle, knowledge is potential power. It's a consistent and focused application of great knowledge that actually helps you to create greater results in your life. So, my challenge to you is to take one of these valuable nuggets of wisdom and go apply it to your life today. And as I remind you every week in the huddle, you are deserving of greatness. You are worthy of greatness. You are greatness. And my only ask from these conversations, if it resonated with you, if it touched your heart, then please share it with a friend, a loved one, a teammate, or just someone you think that would benefit from listening to these positive, inspiring, and empowering ideas. The more people we have listening, understanding, and applying these simple principles to their life, the more blessed this world will be. As always, love having these conversations with you in the huddle. Have a blessed rest of your day.